Hello there and a very good evening. You're watching Primetime News here on TV1. My name is David Paldano. Now, before we head into your stories in more detail, let's first take a look at the headlines.
Cabinet reshuffle announced. Keheli Rambukwella replaces Pavitra Waniarachi as new health minister. Namal Rajapaksa vested with a new ministerial portfolio. 34% rise in COVID-19 patients within a week. SLNS Shakti set sail to India to return with oxygen. CID investigates missing cloud information on medical prescriptions and supplies. Was Surinimala shot in Yala?
Of course, now taking a look at one of your headline-making stories. A cabinet reshuffle of 7 portfolios, including the Ministry of Health, was announced today. Incidentally, this is the first cabinet reshuffle of the incumbent government.
Based on the reshuffle announced today, Keheli Rambukwella took oaths before President Gotabaya Rajapaksa as the new Minister of Health. He previously functioned as the Minister of Mass Media. Pavitra Waniarachi has been appointed as the new Minister of Transport. Gamini Lokuge, who overlooked the Ministry of Transport, was appointed as the new Minister of Power. Dallas Alha-Perumal, who functioned as the Minister of Power thus far, was appointed the new Minister of Mass Media. Professor G.L. Piris was vested with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, while Dinesh Gunawardena was appointed the Minister of Education. Namal Rajapaksa was named the Minister of Development Coordination and Supervision, apart from his role as the Minister of Sports, Youth Affairs and the State Minister of Digital Technology and Enterprise.
The newly appointed ministers assumed duties today. Minister of Health Keheli Rambukwella assumed duties at his new ministry this evening.
Sri
Lanka also has to face the same situation the entire world is facing. We have several challenges pertaining to travel restrictions, the spread of the virus and the different variants. I am not denying that. However, the main challenge is properly managing the situation and emerge victorious for the sake of the people. We are confident that we will be able to overcome this situation. The home-based quarantine system has already begun. We have also created the required environment for it and made arrangements. The essential services of the pharmacies will continue as usual. There is also an issue pertaining to the capacity. We will implement several plans which include the home quarantine system. Meanwhile, new Minister of Mass Media Dallas Alha-Perumal assumed duties at his ministry today. In a tweet, Minister Namal Rajapaksa, who received a new ministerial portfolio, thanked President Gotabaya Rajapaksa for entrusting him with this new portfolio, the Ministry of Development Planning and Monitoring. He said he hopes to work closely with the ministers, state ministers and members of parliament to expedite the Vistas of Prosperity and Splendor manifesto.
Now taking a look at the current COVID-19 situation in the island. 167 new COVID-19 deaths were confirmed today. 3,440 new COVID-19 infections were reported in the country today, 16th of August. Meanwhile, President of the Sri Lanka Medical Association, Dr. Padma Gunaratne, revealed today that a 34% increase in the number of COVID-19 cases in the country was detected compared to last week.
Given by the Ministry of Health, over last week there had been 24,000 reported cases of COVID. When compared to the one before the week, this had been a 34% rise of the number of cases. And when the Ministry of Health data is on a particular number of cases, we know that in the community there are about 3 times more than the number that is mentioned in the data. And then with regard to deaths also, there had been 918 deaths over last week, and that had been 60% more than the week before that. So based on this data, we should be able, as general public, be able to assume how the number of cases and the deaths would be over next week and the one after.
In excess of 600 COVID-19 patients are receiving treatment at the National Hospital in Colombo. 305 of them require oxygen support. That is around 50 50% of the total patients. This situation has not been experienced before. A month ago, only 20% or 30% of the patients required oxygen. Now it has risen to 50%.
වෙන්නේ ඔක්සිජන්. නමුත් දැන් අපි දකිනවා 50%කට පමණ ඔක්සිජන් අවශ්‍ය වෙනවා.
අනුරාධපුර දිස්ත්‍රික්කයේ රෝහල් ගත වෙන්න
Around 1,000 or 1,500 people in the Anuradhapura district are receiving treatment from home without being hospitalized. In the Matale district, there are around 2,000 such patients. You can then draw conclusions on how many patients are receiving treatment at home in highly populated districts. If you contract COVID-19, you will be unable to breathe. You will have no hope anywhere in the world. Not just you, but even us as doctors. We too are helpless because hospitals are overwhelmed. Even the morgues at hospitals are overflowing.
පිරිලා මෝචරියත් රෝහල් වල මේ වෙලාවේ සම්පූර්ණයෙන් පිරිලා තියෙන්නේ.
You have met in the last letter to the president, you have requested a meeting from the president. Have you received a response to that?
No.
Are you disappointed in this lack of response from the authorities, as the SMNA should be sort of spearheading the advice to the authorities?
We are not disappointed of not getting the meeting. We are disappointed of we losing people.
Issuing a press release, the Association of Medical Specialists has warned the President and the government that travel restrictions need to be made stricter to limit movement in the face of the rapid spread of the Delta variant. The AMS has stressed that this request is made based on the World Health Organization's recommendations forwarded by its expert panel, and the request is made also taking into consideration the ground realities and difficulties faced by the health sector at this juncture. The AMS, under the title Better Late Than Never, warns that although the hour is late, imposing stricter restrictions, at least now, could avoid a major disaster the country seems to be headed towards. The Association of Medical Specialists also appealed to all citizens for stricter self-imposed isolation, not only applicable to individuals but also for larger ventures such as department stores, shops, factories, offices and restaurants, where owners and managers could decide on their behalf to take measures on self-isolation. SLNS Shakti, a landing ship tanker of the Sri Lanka Navy, set sail to Chennai, India to transport oxygen back to Sri Lanka. Navy spokesperson Captain Indika De Silva said the ship will set sail to the Indian port of Chennai. The ship will set sail in accordance with the decision taken by the Ministry of Health to ship in 100 tons of oxygen per week from India. In accordance, the Ministry of Health has planned to obtain oxygen from Malaysia as well. 161 COVID-19 deaths were confirmed yesterday by the Director General of Health Services. 78 females and 83 males are included in the death toll. Further, out of the 161 deaths, 122 people were above the age of 60, while one death was of a woman who was below the age of 30. Data has not been distorted, but when matching the data, there is a process named case definition. That is where the issue has sprung up. However, both the Ministry of Health and the Epidemiology Unit has intervened to resolve the matter. I believe we can rectify it completely in the near future. When it is resolved, we can confirm that the mortality rate is indeed low to contradict the reports which have gained global attention over our high mortality rates. Discovering this discrepancy was indeed a good thing, so we can now prove that our mortality rate isn't high.
With the rapid spread of COVID-19 in the country, several business communities in suburban areas of the island have volunteered to close their shops in support to curb the virus. Accordingly, the Ambalangoda Traders Association has decided to close their shops in Ambalangoda for 7 days starting from today. As of today, the number of COVID-19 infections reported from Ambalangoda MOH area stands at 1,431. Meanwhile, following a request made by the Gampaha Traders Association yesterday, several shops in Gampaha were closed today. With over 500 infected people being recorded within the vicinity of Kakirawa in 2 weeks, the Kakirawa Traders Association has taken steps to close the city until the 27th of this month. Our correspondent reported that only pharmacies, medical laboratories and petrol stations in the city are open. Meanwhile, shops in Veyangoda were also closed for 7 days following a surge of COVID-19 infection numbers in the area. 18 deaths have been reported in this area due to COVID-19. Therefore, to avoid any further spread, we decided to close down our businesses and support the government to curb the virus. Even the Veyangoda coroner died of COVID-19. The Association of Medical Specialists point out that this decision taken to close down the shops voluntarily is a favourable approach towards protecting the people. Trading associations in some cities have realized that there is no other alternative way to stop public gatherings rather than closing their shops. Now they have decided to close their shops in support to curb the spread. As a society, we don't have to pin the blame on anyone. Why not? We continue to do this. There is a lot we can do ourselves.
The island-wide quarantine curfew from 10 p.m. to 4 a.m. every day will come into effect from today, the 16th of August. General Shavendra Silva, the head of the National Operations Centre for the Prevention of COVID-19 Outbreaks, said that the quarantine curfew will not apply to those engaged in essential services. In addition to the quarantine curfew, events that encourage mass public gatherings will also be prohibited until further notice. Restaurants can only operate at 50% of the maximum capacity. Weddings held at home or wedding halls will also be prohibited with effect from midnight tomorrow until further notice.
A consignment of 100,000 doses of the Pfizer vaccines arrived in the country at around 2:28 this morning. The stock of vaccines were transported to the blood transfusion center in Narahimpita and stored at the special cold storage facility. The Department of Prisons says that the Attorney General has instructed them to refrain from detaining inmates barring special cases.
බන්ධනාගාර තුල මේ වෙනකොට 21000ක පමණ.
Right now, there are around 21,000 inmates detained in prisons island-wide. As a percentage, it's a 173% increase. This request was made to the Attorney General by the Prisons Commissioner General to avoid a spread of COVID-19 within prisons. The Attorney General has informed the IGP not to remand any suspect apart for special reasons. The Attorney General has issued a circular about the safety of the prisoners from COVID-19, considering health regulations. The circular instructs the police to grant bail when producing prisoners to the courts as much as possible.
අධිකරණයට ඉදිරිපත් කිරීමේදී ඔවුන්ට අපදිය හැකි අවස්ථාවල සෑම අවස්ථාවකම අප ලබා දෙන ලෙස.
Venerable Muruthetwe Ananda Thero spoke of the nation's current trajectory during a media briefing held today.
ලොක්කන් යයි කියා ගන්නා කාමුක හැප්ප දුක් මිස අපට සැප නොයදෙන බව ඇත්ත. නැත්තර නැති උනත් නොබලා ඒ පැත්ත එක්කම අපි සෑවම අපිම කරනට කර යුත්ත. මේ එදා කිව්වේ අද මේක අපට කියන්න වෙලා තිබෙනවා. එදා කිව්වේ එක.
This was chanted back then, but it rings true today. Our present leaders are stubborn. Lord Buddha preached for the country to be governed through the Dasaraja Dharma. I do not know if our current leaders are aware of those sermons. We are disappointed. Even today I got a call asking why we elected them into power. The person who called me said, "We supported them while believing you. Who have you brought into power?" he questioned. He also requested me to change this at least now. If you are no longer grateful, what we have to say is,
දත්නදලා දමන දැහැටි දඬුමෙන් දින දින මෙහෙගෙන දරංගෙන පසුව නොම නුදප්පම්මින ඔබට කියන්න සිද්ධ වෙලා තිබෙනවනේ. කෑස් තියෙනවද? අඩ තියෙනවද? ඔපෙන් අහනවා.
Is there gas? Potatoes? That is what we are asked. All we have to say to Mahinda is, it has come to a point where we have to vent out our frustrations. Was the curfew imposed for bats or owls? If the rulers are controlling the country in a rigid manner, we wish to tell the people to create self-discipline, call for an election, provincial or even a general election, and see for yourself how many votes you will get. You will suffer the same fate the UNP suffered. It dipped to 8 because they did not heed the people's calls. We too will suffer a similar fate, but we dread to witness it. We got to know Kehelia Rambukwella was appointed the Minister of Health. I wish to tell him the Ministry of Health was an utter mess. Pavitra Vanyarachi cleaned it up as much as she could. We cannot forget it. But changing ministers, like changing pillows to get rid of a headache, will not solve anything. You took over a mess. You should be skilled enough to untangle that mess. Without doing so, you will not be able to progress.
මේ කුණුකට සුද්ධ කරන්න ඔබතුමාට හැකියාවක් තියෙන්න ඕනේ. මේ කුණුකට සුද්ධ නොකරනම් ඔබතුමාට කවදාකවත් මෙන්න මේ ගමන යන්න පුළුවන් කමක් ඇති වෙන්නේ නැහැ කියන එකයි මගේ විශ්වාසය මැතිතුමනි.
Concerning the current situation in the country, it has been decided today at the party leaders' meeting to hold the parliamentary session only tomorrow. Sergeant-at-Arms of the Parliament, Narendra Fernando, said that it was decided to hold the sitting tomorrow from 10 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. The COVID-19 eradication bill is due to be taken up for debate tomorrow. As the opposition, we suggested that if they are closing the parliament, they should lock down the country as well. There is no point in locking down the parliament when the country is open. If there is some fear within parliamentarians of attending parliament sessions, even our citizens feel the same fear. There was an attempt to debate and approve a gazette concerning the importation and assembling of some vehicle parts. We oppose that. We are hoping to discuss all gazettes of which the dates are lapsing. Earlier they wanted to have the parliamentary sessions. Now they are saying to close it down. This is nothing but an attempt to sabotage the activities in the country. There is no need to impose a lockdown if the citizens are following all health guidelines. There are political undercurrents behind this. Meanwhile, the Sri Lanka police announced that SSP Attorney-at-Law Nihal Talduwa has been appointed as the new police media spokesperson. Nihal Talduwa has previously served as the director of the Terrorism Investigation Division and the Crimes Division. As of now, he is appointed as the Media Divisional Director.
The CID has launched an investigation into an incident where important medical prescriptions and supply data was suddenly erased from a cloud storage facility.
Prescriptions and supply information provided to pharmaceutical importers in the country are stored on a cloud database under the National Medicines Regulatory Authority. How did such vital information go missing? When Newsfirst inquired from the NMRA regarding the matter, it said a private institution named Epic Technologies handles operations of the cloud database.
We had outsourced it to a private company named Epic Technologies. We have also launched an investigation suspecting this could have been done as an act of sabotage. Due to this reason, the online operation of the NMRA has come to a halt. The ultimate responsibility of gathering and safeguarding this information falls under the Information and Communication Technology Agency of Sri Lanka. However, a private firm had taken over that operation since 2018. This incident is a stark depiction that any information can easily be erased. The database does not get corrupted, but mapping cannot be done. Therefore, our stakeholders cannot perform assessments, but we have now entered into discussions to decide whether assessments can be conducted manually. If the data has been erased and no backup is available, how can the data be recovered? We contacted Nayana Dehigama, chairman of Epic Technology Group, for a clarification on the matter. However, he declined to comment on the matter, citing it was under investigation by the CID. The Information and Communication Technology Agency of Sri Lanka is responsible for the implementation of all information and communication technology related projects of the government. Be that as it may, how did the ICTA neglect the responsibility of storing the NMRA's data on a cloud database? Newsfirst also reached out to Oshada Senanayaka, the chairman of ICTA, for a comment on the incident. He said Epic Technologies Group is culpable for the loss of data which occurred at the NMRA. He added the ICTA is extending its fullest support to the CID team probing the matter. The NMRA itself agrees this incident will hamper order assessments in the future. If so, why was a third party allowed access to highly sensitive government information? I have been notified that most of the erased data can be retrieved. Therefore, we intend to act on the matter in the near future. Why wasn't a cloud disaster recovery system in place to offset such a deletion? What is the truth behind this matter? More information to follow. Now taking a look at some tragic headline-making stories. The death of an elephant in Block 3 of the Yala National Park has prompted environmentalists to raise concerns over the safety of 3 other elephants in the area. Last night, the death of an elephant at Block 3 of the Yala National Park sent shockwaves across the country as horrifying images of its carcass began emerging.
The corpse was discovered in the environs of the Sellakataragama Gothamigama electric fence. Its body had been dismembered and its growing tusks stolen. The wild killers responsible for the death of this majestic creature had not stopped after taking its life. Its head was separated from its body, tusks stolen, and its tail had also been taken away. Is this the elephant named Suranimala? Did the poachers target this specific elephant or another one of the 4 elephants in its herd? When going through photographs published, it is evident that a bullet had pierced through this creature's head. I want to request the Department of Wildlife to locate the bullet used to kill the animal and produce it to court. Further, the tusks had been separated using a chainsaw, leading us to believe this was a coordinated killing. These are heinous crimes. The head of another tusker was discovered from the buffer zone of the Yala National Park around a year ago. Even that creature's tusks had been harvested. This clearly depicts a racket of harvesting the tusks of elephants is currently taking place in the country. Based on information unearthed thus far, wildlife officials suspect the creature had died after being shot in the head. The Director General of Wildlife, Chandana Surya Bandara, says a special team has been assigned to probe this brutal killing. 3 joint investigations, including a police investigation, is currently underway with regard to the killing. In 2019, 7 elephants were killed in Kiriwadunna, Habrana. What is the progress of the investigation launched into the killings? The animals had been killed by feeding them poison. That happens even today. The report has been directed to the government analyst. The case will be taken up on the 14th of next month. By that date, the government analyst must provide the report. Why does it take so long for a report on a matter which occurred in 2019 to be published? Why isn't the report being given? Will the probe into this vile killing too be met with a similar fate?
මේවලට නීතිය ක්‍රියාත්මක වෙන නීතිය ක්‍රියාත්මක කරන ඉතින් කාටද නීතිය ක්‍රියාත්මක කවුරු කරා කියලා දැන් මේකත් එහෙමද වෙන්නේ හොයනවා අන්තිමට හම්බෙන්නේ.
The Citizens Collective in Negombo convened a media briefing urging the President to respond to the letter sent by the Catholic Church with regard to the investigations launched into the April 21st attacks.
Soon after the attacks took place, Gotabaya Rajapaksa came before the media and said that he will contest and that he is ready to provide security. But are you ready to provide the security that you promised? Because we will not be safeguarded until the identity of the mastermind is revealed. So this issue is not only a problem of the Catholics, it is an issue pertaining to all citizens of the country. Therefore, I ask all citizens that looking at this issue from that perspective will pose a risk to all our lives. It is clear from what the Cardinal says that there were political benefits. There can only be 4 people who can gain political benefits through this. They are Ranil Wickremesinghe, Maithripala Sirisena, Sajith Premadasa and President Gotabaya Rajapaksa. They are the ones who used this for their benefit during the previous election. We ask Gotabaya Rajapaksa if he is behind this conspiracy, as he hasn't even responded to the letter written by the Cardinal. Are you the mastermind behind this? I will not question the other political parties in the same manner, because this was the faction that obtained power in the previous election. The other political parties have the responsibility to ensure this is not repeated.
මම එදා පාස් ප්‍රහාරයට මුහුණ දුන්නු එක්කෙනෙක්. එදා මට බෝල 20 ගහනක් ඇඟට වැදුනා. ඒ කොටසක් අරගෙන තව 6ක් මගේ ඇඟේ තියෙනවා. මම ඉල්ලා සිටිනවා මේකට කවුද වගේ කිය යුත්තේ කියලා. ඒකට සාධාරණයක් ඉටු කර දෙන්න කියලා තමයි මම ඉල්ලා සිටින්නේ.
මේ අවස්ථාවේදී හඬගා කියන්නේ අගෝස්තු 22
We will stand by the victims of the April 21st attacks until the answers are given, until the group including the mastermind is brought forward and the law is enacted. We will stand by them until justice is served.
අපි ඔවුන් සමග සිටිනවායි කියන එක.
Will the punishment for the perpetrators of the April 21st attacks be further delayed?
දැන් අපි 25 දිනකට එරෙහිව දැනටමත් නීතිපතිතුමා නඩු පවරලා තියෙනවා. ඒක
The Attorney General has already filed cases against 25 suspects. Everyone was waiting for that. Even the Cardinal complained about the delay in filing these cases. This delay was unavoidable because 58 officers of the CID and a team from the Attorney General's department investigated this day and night before filing these cases. Cases were filed against 6 before this for damaging statues in Mavanella and operating an explosives dump in Vanathavillua. These investigations are ongoing. After this government was appointed, we arrested 174 suspects. Red notices have also been issued for the arrest of several suspects.
මේ සම්බන්ධයෙන් කටයුතු කරනවා. මේකට සම්බන්ධ කාටවත් අපි නිදහසේ ඉන්න නම් දෙන්නේ නැහැ.
The Frontline Socialist Party lodged a complaint with the Election Commission today against an incident where police officers visited the residence of its key members for interrogations.
The Frontline Socialist Party points out that through these intimidations, it loses its right as a registered party to engage in democratic activities. There had been a trend of suppression against public activists who stand against the government. Now, yesterday morning, the police had broken into a house of a web journalist named Tushara and carried out a search. These are acts committed to instill fear. Kirti Ratnayaka was arrested for spreading false information. Recently, the CID broke into the house of Dr. Najit Indika, a doctor at the Avisaville Hospital, over a post he shared on social media to reveal the real situation in hospitals. As a registered political party, we have the right to engage in politics within the country. The police have no power to break into our offices or to the houses of our main members in this manner.
Now on to international news. Afghans living in Kabul have awoken to their first full day under Taliban rule, almost 20 years after being ousted by a US-led military coalition. Eyewitnesses have told foreign media that civilians have been killed as hundreds of people attempting to leave Afghanistan continued to gather at Kabul's international airport.
US troops who have taken over the airport as evacuations out of the city continue had reportedly fired in the air to scatter the crowds earlier today. Meanwhile, Reuters news agency puts the death toll higher, with one witness saying he had seen the bodies of 5 people being carried to a vehicle. Another said it was unclear whether the victims had been shot or killed in a stampede. Desperate residents attempted to flee the city of Kabul following Taliban's return. The US military has secured the site and is taking over air traffic control to evacuate Americans and allied staff. But commercial flights have mostly been suspended, stranding hundreds of Afghans and other foreign nationals. Footage shared online showed hundreds of people running towards the airport after the militants took control of the presidential palace yesterday. Shocking videos show 2 people falling off a plane mid-air in Kabul. The US said it had moved all of its embassy staff to the airport to await evacuations, with nearly 6,000 troops sent in to assist in the operation. The UK government is confident it can get British nationals out of Afghanistan, with plans for hundreds more to leave in the coming days. UK Secretary of State for Defence Ben Wallace said he had received assurances from the Taliban military leadership via a Middle East country that the airport would be allowed to function, enabling UK officials and forces to help people leave. However, later in the day, the UK Defence Secretary broke down as he admitted some people won't get back from Afghanistan as desperate struggle to get UK nationals and local allies out of the country continued. Meanwhile, China and Russia have indicated they have no plans to close their embassies. China warned its nationals to quote-unquote stay indoors and alert to the situation, but said it had asked various factions in Afghanistan to ensure the safety of its citizens. Russia's foreign ministry told state media on Sunday that the government had no plans to evacuate. Last month, Taliban representatives visited China, where they met with Foreign Minister Wang Yi. The meeting at the time was seen as an international recognition of the Taliban as a political force. The group entered the capital yesterday as the government collapsed and President Ashraf Ghani fled. President Ashraf Ghani, who held emergency talks with US envoy Zalmay Khalilzad and other top NATO officials, and who took steps to boost Afghanistan's security and defense force, fled to Uzbekistan, saying that he was leaving to avoid a bloody battle in Kabul. His actions were met with accusations of abandonment and has been criticized for his failure to deal with the Taliban as they made rapid gains. Russia's embassy in Kabul said that Afghan President Ashraf Ghani had fled the country with 4 cars and a helicopter full of cash and had to leave money behind as it would not all fit in. The Taliban have said that all sections of the society will have civil freedoms in their rule, but analysts say it's too early to trust such promises. A Taliban spokesman has told the BBC that the militant group is working to form a new government in Afghanistan and once again ordered its fighters to leave Afghan civilians alone as it seeks to present a moderate face to the local population.
And with that, we wrap up primetime news here on TV1. But before that, we leave you some views expressed by Minister of Transport Pavitra Vanyarachi about the cabinet reshuffle. Of course, with that, my name is Devi Paldano, joining our sign interpreter for tonight, Tharaka Gabriel. Take care and good night.
The Epilogue.
Unexpected මොහොතක සෞඛ්‍ය අමාත්‍යාංශය වෙනුවට ප්‍රවාහන අමාත්‍යාංශය මට බාර දීලා තිබුණා මං එතෙන්ට යනකම්ම ඇත්තටම මං දැන
I was given the Ministry of Transport, replacing the Ministry of Health in an unexpected manner. I didn't know this was going to happen until I got there. However, we must accept any challenge in life with open arms. That is what I have understood. Let me tell you a story. One day, a king and his assistant were out hunting. The king, who is usually a good marksman, shot a deer with an arrow, but he missed the target. He then turned to his assistant and asked, "Why did I miss?" In reply, the assistant said, "Everything happens for the best." Later on, he missed his target once more, and once again he asked his assistant why he missed it. The assistant gave the same reply. Late in the day, the king accidentally hurt his finger with his sword, and a part of his finger was chopped off. Then too, the king asked the assistant why it happened. Once again, the assistant replied that it happened for the best. The king was angry at his assistant, threw him into a ditch and went along a separate way than his usual route. On his way, he was captured by a tribe who were looking for a human sacrifice. But the human had to be complete. And since a part of the king's finger had been injured, he was released. Thereafter, the king returned to his assistant and thanked him for remaining calm and apologized for throwing him into the ditch. The assistant accepted the apology and said, "I must thank you, my king, because had you not thrown me in this ditch, I would have been the human sacrifice."
මාව වලට දාපු එකත් ඔබතුමාට මම ස්තුතිවන්ත වෙනවා. මොකද ඔබතුමාත් එක්ක මම ගියා නම් එහෙම ඇඟිල්ල කැපපු අනුසේ සම්පූර්ණ මිනිහෙක්ට මමයි විලි පූජාවට පත් වෙන්නේ. මේ හැමදේම වෙන්නේ හොඳට කියලා අපි හිත හදාගමු.